Hey guys, tonight we begin with the grim, dangerous, and utterly thankless world of medieval assassins, those shadow-soaked figures who slithered through castle halls and narrow alleys, rewriting history not with speeches or swords, but with a single blade and a whisper. Hollywood tells it wrong. The hoods, the parkour, the poetic vengeance lies. The truth. Being a medieval assassin absolutely sucked. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing how far this sleepy little time machine reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's story together. No one in the 12th century ever sprang out of bed and thought, today feels like a good day to stab a baron in the neck for 12 silver coins and the privilege of hiding in a barrel for 3 days. Becoming an assassin wasn't a calling, it was a collapse. Not some mountaintop monk training in silence, just a desperate soul, already forgotten by history, hoping to leave behind at least a stain. You stand in shadow, just beyond the edge of stained glass moonlight. The cathedral bell moans overhead, a single, reluctant clang, the kind that echoes across an empty plaza like an accusation. Every part of you aches your knees, from kneeling too long in the damp crypt. Your stomach, hollow as a broken oath, and your fingers, curled tightly around the wooden grip of a knife that was once used to skin deer. Not for prayer, not for repentance, for the bishop. They say he sleeps alone in the eastern tower. They say his dreams are guarded by iron locks and one-eyed dogs. But tonight, his bodyguard is vomiting in the alley behind the wine merchant's stall, and the bishop has dined on soup sweetened with crushed poppy and slivered goat tongue. You step forward. The flagstones are slick with mildew and melted candle wax. The scent is thick incense, tallow, something older. Not rot exactly, not death. More like the breath of something ancient exhaling through the cracks in the floor. Your knife feels heavier the closer you get. That's a known curse, whispered among certain tavern witches. The blade knows who it's meant for, and it resists. You never believed that. But you also never expected to see your own reflection in the bishop's goblet, trembling like a ghost in wine. You pass the final door, oak and iron, no guards, just a brass handle shaped like an angel with its eyes covered. You knock, just once. Why even you don't know. Inside, silence. Then footsteps, bare, hesitant. You press yourself against the stone, dagger raised not like a soldier, but like someone who's never learned to hold a thing without apology. The door creaks open. The bishop's eyes meet yours and widen, not in recognition, not in fear, but in something like relief. You finally came, he whispers. He turns his back to you, walks to the window, and parts the curtain with 2 fingers. The moon catches in his white robes like milk in blood. I left the door open on purpose, he says. I've waited. The blade doesn't move. Your fingers refuse. He turns again, slowly, carefully. Will it be the blade or the rope, he asks. You don't answer. You're watching his lips. They look chapped. He's been fasting. Well, I've seen the signs, he says. The sparrows nested in the wrong arch. The choir forgot the 3rd psalm. And last night I dreamed I was pierced by a falling star. I knew it meant you. He steps forward. You step back. The knife drops slightly. Here's the problem with this job. Sometimes your target wants to die, and that, somehow, is worse. A breeze stirs through the high windows, somewhere far above. The bell swings again half-hearted, like an old man sighing. You blink. You're 8 years old again, standing in your mother's kitchen, stealing a paring knife to gut a trout. The blood ran clear. That was supposed to mean something. Like a clean soul you've forgotten. The bishop kneels. You flinch. Not because he prays, but because he weeps. His tears hit the stone with small and neat sounds like coins. You want to say something. Anything. Instead, your fingers move. The knife lifts. Here's a historical note you once overheard in a brothel in Toulouse. There was a bishop in 1233 who begged for a knife through the heart, rather than wait for the Inquisition to find him. Rumour said he confessed to breathing too close to a demon's mouth. Others said it was simply guilt, or politics. That bishop was never named in the annals. Just a margin note died by quiet hands. Quiet hands. You strike, not clean, never clean. There is no clean way to kill a man kneeling. The knife hits bone, then flesh, then silence. He doesn't scream. You watch the red grow on his robes like ink in holy water, and for a moment, he looks grateful. You step back, a thump. He falls sideways, head striking the stone with a sound that echoes longer than expected. The bell tolls again. You can tell if it's for you or for him. You wipe the blade on your sleeve, then regret it. The sleeve is white. Too late now. The blood's already drying, a sticky badge of your failure to stay untouched. Now comes the part they never train you for breathing after. You inhale. The air smells like wax and salt, and something sweet, like almond. You think about the soup, the poppy. Did he know you slip out the door? Footsteps echo somewhere below choir boys, perhaps, or rats. Both have sharp ears. You descend the stairs barefoot, leaving behind red dots on every third stone. The night air hits your face like a question. What now? You disappear into the alley, and there, behind the garden wall, a cat watches you. Its eyes are gold. Its tail flicks once, and then it vanishes. Like you will, eventually, certainly, continuing with, you crouch in the cloister's alcove, breath shallow, fingers stiff from the cold. Your left foot has gone numb. Your right hand smells faintly of vinegar, pine, and death. The monk is dying quietly, beautifully, his head tilted back against the faded fresco of St. Bartholomew, whose painted smile now watches the whole scene with benign indifference. You didn't expect it to go so smoothly. The tea worked. He'd sipped it slowly, nodding politely, as if the bitter root and ash leaf mixture hadn't been stirred clockwise under a waning moon. As the apothecary insisted, you even used the correct bowl-green ceramic, with a chip in the rim shaped like a wolf's tooth. It was the monk himself who offered it to you. Brother Augustine, you'd murmured, lowering your hood just enough to show that you were no pilgrim. You know why I'm here. He had smiled, wide, gap-toothed, strange. Of course, he said. You were always going to come. He'd poured the tea with shaking hands. You watched as his fingers trembled just so, his thumbnail catching the rim of the cup, the liquid sloshing slightly. Still, not a drop was spilled. He was devout, even now. That made it worse. Did they offer you gold, he asked. You shook your head. Only absolution. He laughed until he coughed, and when he coughed, a bit of red shone at the corner of his lips. Ah, a holy client. Then, those are the worst. They always want 2 murders in one. You didn't answer. You never do. Now, he lies still. Only the wind speaks, rustling through brittle rosemary and half-dead ivy. From the garden beyond, smoke spirals up. The novitiates are burning herb bundles, as they do at dusk rue, sage, cedar. It masks the scent of his death. You timed it well. Ashes drift on the breeze like snow that has forgotten its purpose. One flake lands on his tongue. You look away. You should leave now. You know this. But something in the stillness anchors you. Some part of your soul, or whatever ragged filament remains, feels pulled toward this moment like a moth to cold flame. You remember the first monk you ever saw. You were a child, hungry, crouched under a wagon. He was plump, loud, cheerful. He smelled of honey and sweat. He gave you a heel of bread and a pat on the head. Later, someone told you he was stabbed in the woods, mistaken for a tax collector. You don't know why that comes to mind now. Perhaps the poison is leaking from his cup to your thoughts. There's a distant clang of metal bells from the refectory, calling the others to their boiled roots and barley mash. They'll discover his absence in 27 minutes, give or take. You counted the timing last week when you posed as a silent pilgrim and watched their rhythms. Monks are nothing if not predictable, except this one. Brother Augustine had secrets. You can see them now, written across the floor. Scorch marks near the shelf, hidden symbols inked in milk, a rolled parchment under the cot's frame, sealed with wax that smells of frankincense and clove. You don't touch it. Some knowledge is cursed in languages older than Latin. Instead, you kneel beside him, your knees clicking like rusted hinges. His skin is pale, paler than parchment, his lips still curled at the corners, as if he finds this all terribly funny. There is a theory, one argued by scholars who've never slit a throat in silence, that certain sects of monks practiced voluntary poisoning, believing that divine truths were revealed in the haze before death, hallucination as revelation, drowning in blood, yes, but a holy blood, distilled into vision. You wonder if Augustine saw anything in his final breaths. You wonder if he saw you. A crow lands on the windowsill. It watches. You watch back. Neither of you blinks. You think of a tale you heard in Bruges, a monk who transcribed the devil's prayers in reverse Latin, using ink mixed with belladonna and grave dust. They say he vanished mid-chant, leaving only a burn mark shaped like a smile. You check your satchel. The dagger is still there. The second dose of the root too. A third name waits. Always a third. But for now, you must vanish again. You rise. Bones aching, joints stiff. You pull the hood over your head and wipe your hands on your cloak, careful not to leave prints on the table. The cup. The monk's habit. You don't need to hide the body. Not this time. They'll assume heart failure. He was old, frail, half mad, and besides, monks die all the time. What they won't find, not immediately, is the hole you cut in the lining of his mattress, inside a thin sheet of silver etched with letters you cannot read and dare not try. You leave it where it lies. You are told to retrieve nothing, only silence. You slip through the side corridor, past the portrait of St. Sebastian with his lovely, arrow-riddled torso, past the locked reliquary, past the cracked holy water font with that one fish still swimming in it. Stubborn as guilt, you reach the outer door, unlatch it. The night greets you with a breath of loam and coal. You step into the dark. No one stops you. No one would. To them. You're still the mute pilgrim with a limp and a bad cough. Harmless, forgettable, already fading. You pass the outer gate. A dog barks once, half-hearted, then quiet. You walk into the woods. The path forks. Left leads to the village. Right leads to the river. You go straight, because there is no path for you. Only motion. Somewhere behind you. A monk's body begins to cool. Somewhere ahead, a name is being whispered, and in the trees above, ash still falls soft, white, and patient as judgment. The first thing you feel is the cold. It rises from beneath you, from the cracked stone and damp earth, curling through your spine like a question you don't want to answer. You shift, barely. Your cheek sticks to something wet, not water, not blood, something thicker, something sacred. Your eyes open. There is no sky, only stone above, rough and sweating. You're underground again, and you're not alone. Bones press against your ribs, skulls, femurs, a rib cage, half buried in ash. One spine arches across the ground like a question mark made of ivory. You move your hand and something crunches. A jawbone, brittle and moss-covered, smiles up at you. You sit slowly. Your cloak is stiff with dried wax and old blood. Your dagger's gone. Your memory, too, has vanished into fog. What was your last job? A bishop? A merchant? You remember wine, laughter, and then darkness. The silence here is total. Not even rats. Not even breath. You're in a charnel pit, somewhere beneath a church, or a shrine, or a lie. You touch your head. A bruise, swollen, wet, not fresh. Someone hit you. Someone left you here. You were not meant to wake. You stand, slowly, knees buckling. Bones shift underfoot with an unsettling harmony, like dry leaves being read aloud by the dead. The walls are not walls. They are shelves neatly stacked skulls, arranged with reverent care, each one marked with a faded symbol, crosses, suns, stars, flowers. You see a child's skull, no larger than a pear, a saint's femur, wrapped in lace. Someone took the time to curate death. You stumble forward. Your hand brushes something slick wax drippings, thick as tallow, down a cracked candlestick shaped like a serpent. It's still warm. Someone was here, not long ago. They lit the candles, they arranged the bones, and they placed you like an offering at the center. You remember a name, barely, not yours, the client's, or maybe the victim's. Does it matter? Your name has been taken. Again. You were warned this would happen, long ago, when you first took the black vow not of cloth, but of memory. Every kill erases a word, every job burns a page. Eventually, there is nothing left but the hands and the knife. Where is your knife? You find it, eventually, half buried beneath a fractured skull, crusted in what might be candle wax or marrow. The blade is nicked, the hilt, warm, as if someone else had been holding it, as if it never stopped working. You sheath it in silence, then you notice the writing, one of the skull-centered Revereda's words carved across its brow, in a language you don't understand. The letters shimmer slightly, not gold, not blood, something between. You lean closer, the script moves, it rearranges. Now it reads something simple, something brutal. You were here. A shiver passes through you that no warmth will ever reach. Was this yours? Did someone make a reliquary of you? You back away. You shouldn't have read it. You weren't supposed to see this place. The truly forgotten are buried here. The ones erased from all records, failed assassins, ghost soldiers, the ones whose names make the bells crack, and you've woken among them, a crow caws above, muffled. It must be morning somewhere. You press your hand to the stone wall, tracing your way toward what you pray is an exit. Behind you, the bones whisper. You pretend not to hear them. A historical curiosity, noted in a single dusty journal from a priory in Rouen. In the 12th century, there was a sect of monks who believed certain assassins did not die, but slept, buried beneath cathedrals until the world was ready to use them again. They called them the sleepers beneath sanctum. You thought it was myth. You still want to believe it is, but the walls breathe now. The stone exhales. And somewhere behind you, a skull topples gently from its perch, not because of your steps, but because something deeper has stirred. You find the stairwell. It spirals upward, narrow, damp, dizzying. Each step you take echoes with your own heartbeat. You count them without meaning to. 27. The number from the monk's meal schedule, coincidence. Or is this whole world folded into symbols now? You push against the door at the top. It opens with a groan that sounds almost human. Fresh air. Grass. Dawn. You emerge into a churchyard slick with dew. A stone angel stares down at you. Her face cracked, her wings broken. Your own face feels wrong, as if it's borrowed. You don't remember who you're supposed to be here. A man walks past carrying a bundle of herbs. He nods at you. You nod back. You could be anyone. You are. The man does not stop. He does not scream, but he leaves a trail of footprints in the dew. Only one set leads back to the church, your own. No one else emerged, so who lit the candles? You begin walking. You don't know where, but you know how, because that, at least, cannot be forgotten. Behind you, in the dark below, the bones settle, for now, but you can still feel their weight in your chest, like promises, or names, or sins. She finds you at the edge of the ruined orchard, where the apple trees bloom late and the mist never quite lifts. Morning is a pale, unfinished thought. Your boots squish in the black mud, and your hands are stuffed deep into your sleeves to keep them from trembling. You thought you were alone. You always think that, until something reminds you that shadows have smaller shadows inside them. Are you the one who makes people go away? The girl asks. Her voice is thin, like thread pulled through a needle too many times. She's no older than 10, barefoot, cheeks smudged with soot, hair bound in twine like a rag doll come to life. Her eyes are clear. Too clear. You blink once. She doesn't. I can pay, she adds. You do not answer, not with words. Your body turns toward her, slow as a weathered hinge. The orchard groans with wind, or memory. Far off, a church bell rings, but no one here marks time anymore. Not since the old priest died and the altar burned. She holds something out in her dirt-caked palm. A coin, but not silver, not copper. Bone. A small disc, polished and etched with a spiral. I took it from his mouth. She says simply, "Whose you ask before you can stop yourself?" She shrugs. He died when the stars were wrong. Your silence is not agreement, but it is enough. You've accepted worse currency. Teeth, secrets, tears, names. She steps closer, so close you see that her eyes are not just clear, they are ancient. No child should carry that kind of gaze. No child should know the shape of a contract. But she does. She reaches into her dress pocket and pulls out a piece of parchment. It's wrinkled, stained with something rust-coloured, Dried blood. Maybe. Maybe not. She offers it up with both hands, like a priestess presenting a relic. You hesitate. Then you take it. The name scrawled there means nothing to you at first, just loops and slashes. But your mind, trained long ago in the fevered tunnels beneath Alamut, begins to translate. It's a noble name. Old and cursed. You've heard it whispered before, in the broken places. He once owned a fleet of assassins, or so they said. Bought and sold death like grain, until one of them turned on him, until he vanished, until his name became a warning scratched on walls. And now a child wants him dead. He lives in the manor on the hill, she says, but only on odd days. The rest of the time, he's a wolf. You nod, not because you believe her, but because you've seen stranger truths. There's a silence then, the kind that creeps. Finally, she asks, will it hurt you don't answer? Instead, you kneel. Your knees sink into the mud. The girl does not flinch. You reach into your sleeve and pull out a small bundle of cloth. You unwrap it. Inside, a charm. An iron coin pierced through with a nail. You press it into her hand. If anyone asks, you whisper, say you never saw me. I never saw you, she repeats immediately, like she's done it before. Maybe she has. You leave without another word. The trees part for you. Bare, claw-like branches stretch overhead. Somewhere, an owl hoots confused by the dawnlight. You descend through the field, your feet squelching in silence, and make for the river. Across it, the manor rises blackened stone, shuttered windows, chimneys that bleed smoke even when no fire burns. The locals call it the house that eats names. You've never believed in cursed buildings, but you do believe in people, and people build worse things than houses. You reach the river's edge. It smells of iron. You do not cross yet. Instead, you crouch and wash your hands in the freezing current. You let the cold climb into your bones, into your mouth, into the spot behind your eyes where the faces of the dead sometimes bloom. Then you whisper the name aloud, once, quietly, like a confession, and the water ripples. Fact in 14th century Bohemia. There was a rumour that children from plague villages carried death tokens, small bones carved with spiral runes, and those who accepted them would be marked by fate. Some said the children were cursed. Others believed they were the only ones who still remembered how to summon the forgotten. You never believed it, until today. You cross the river. The manor waits. The job is already half done. You just don't know which half. Behind you, in the orchard, the child is gone, but the spiral coin remains in your pocket, warm and pulsing. The apothecary won't look at your face. She gestures for you to sit on the milking stool near the fire, one leg shorter than the others, so you wobble as you settle. The room is full of smells: burned mint, spoiled honey, wet fur, and something sour that stings the backs of your eyes. Shelves line the walls, crammed with jars of floating things. Fingers, maybe, or roots shaped like tongues. The labels are in a language that died screaming. She doesn't speak, just waits. You reach into your cloak, into the lining where you sew your payments, your sins. You pull out the tooth. Still blood-crusted, still warm, not yours. She nods, takes it without reverence, drops it into a copper bowl with a dull clink. The tooth begins to smoke. You try not to flinch. That will buy you enough for one, she says. Finally. Her voice is like creaking branches, or paper burning in a closed room. One what you ask. She doesn't answer. Instead, she turns, reaches behind the stove, and pulls out a jar so black it reflects nothing, not even flame. She unscrews the lid with care. Inside is liquid barely. It clings to the glass like grief. No scent, no light. This is crow's glass, she murmurs. Boiled down from 7 poisons. You don't feed it to the body. You feed it to the shadow. You raise an eyebrow. She smiles. It's not kind. It works best on those already hollow. You nod. You know who it's for. The noble on the hill, the one the child cursed with her coin, is not afraid of death. Not anymore. But the thing behind him, the thing that's still moving when he sleeps that can be killed. Maybe. The apothecary hands you a small vial wrapped in linen. Don't spill it, she says. What happens if I do? She shrugs. Nothing you'll live through. You tuck it away, deep, where it won't rattle. And then you do what you've always done when leaving such places. You bless the door behind you with your breath. She pretends not to notice, but you see the tremor in her shoulders. She's afraid of you. That's good, because you're not sure you aren't afraid of yourself. Outside, the day is pale and sour. Mist clings to the ground like damp wool. You follow the trail of broken stones toward the manor. The wind whispers your name, though you've forgotten what it is now. You grip the vial. You don't remember your mother's face, but you remember what she said. Once, when you burned your hand on the hearth. Everything worth doing leaves a scar. You wonder how many you've earned. You reach the bottom of the hill. The manor looms, crooked and watching. Its windows don't reflect. Its chimney exhales like a beast. You cross the threshold silently. Inside dust and velvet, the taste of old secrets. The air is warm, but not from fire. There are footsteps upstairs. You remove your boots. The floorboards creak gently, like breath drawn in anticipation. Up the staircase, the wallpaper peels in patterns shaped like eyes. You find the study. Hez there, sitting in a chair too large for him, a fur-lined cloak hanging from one shoulder. His face is gaunt, skin pulled tight. One hand holds a goblet, the other, nothing. He doesn't look up. I wondered when you'd come, he says. They always say that. You do not speak. You move behind him. He lifts the goblet. Will it hurt, he asks. You uncork the vial. You pour the crow's glass into the wine. He drinks, slowly. When he finishes, he sets the goblet down. His hand shakes. He exhales. I thought there would be peace, he says. You step back. His eyes widen. His mouth opens, but nothing comes out. His hands claw at his chest. Not pain, fear, not of death, of memory. You see it then, his shadow flickering against the wall. It does not match his body. It screams and vanishes. He falls, not breathing. You kneel, press your fingers to his neck. Gone. You open his shirt, just to be sure. No heartbeat, but across his chest, a new mark, a spiral, just like the coin. You don't know what it means. You don't want to. You stand. You step into the hallway. There is no sound, but behind you, the goblet begins to crack, then shatter. Not from heat, from cold. That's what crow's glass does. It freezes what was never warm. Fact in early Germanic folklore, there is a legend of Ekdunkela, black poison that eats memory before it eats flesh. It was said to be brewed only by widows who'd watched their sons die in war. No one remembers its ingredients. No one who drank it remembered anything at all. You descend the stairs. You leave through the servant's door. The wind greets you with silence. You look at your hands. They are black to the wrists, but only you can see it. You walk back through the orchard. The trees do not move, but the child is waiting again. You give her the charm back. She nods. No smile. No thanks. Only this. He wasn't the last. You already know. And the tooth in your pouch. The town is already rotting when you arrive. It's not the kind of rot you see no corpses in the streets. No crows swirling like smoke over gabled roofs. This is the slower kind. The inward kind. Buildings lean a little too much. Windows are shuttered even in daylight. Doors creak open but never quite close. The smell yeast, rain, mildew, and something like despair left to steep clings to your boots before you even pass the first broken milestone. You keep your hood low. The name came to you the night before, carved into the bark of a tree you didn't remember sleeping beneath. A message or a threat. You never know which. The man you seek is a magistrate, or he was. Now he's something worse, untouchable. His house sits like a tumour at the heart of the town-white walls, black shutters, red ivy climbing like veins. No guards. He doesn't need them. His doors are always open. He thinks it's brave, or maybe he thinks no one remembers what he's done. You remember. At least today, you do. They say he ordered executions for bread thefts. Had a priest hanged upside down until he remembered where the missing tithes went. That he paid for a gallows with wedding dowries. But those aren't your reasons. You climb the outer wall just before midnight. When the rain begins, it doesn't fall. It hisses, as if the sky itself is whispering warnings. You ignore them. You always do. His study is on the second floor. There's light behind the curtain, scandal light, not fire. You climb the drain pipe like a memory ascending. Your blade is already in your hand. It's the one with the horn handle. The one you sharpened for 2 hours by lantern light. It doesn't want to be here. You slip in through the window. The glass is smeared with old handprints, some too small to be his. He's seated at his desk, writing. He doesn't look up. You're late, he says. You freeze. He finishes the sentence and dips the quill, looks up. His eyes are the colour of rusted iron. You're here to kill me, he says. Yes, you say nothing. He smiles. It's what I deserve. That stops you. Deserve. A dangerous word. You step forward. He doesn't move. The blade finds its place above his collarbone. This close. You see the ink stains on his fingers, the cracked lips, the way one eye twitches, not fear. Reflex. He's done this before. Maybe not as a victim. He whispers something. You don't catch it. You press the blade in, and it breaks. The sound is soft, a dull snap. The steel splinters as if it struck bone, but it barely touched skin. You stagger back. He doesn't laugh. He bleeds. A trickle. Thin. Red. Not arterial. Not deep. But blood. All the same. He touches the wound. Looks at it. Nods. Good, he says. And then he collapses. You catch him before he hits the floor. Why? Because the room is suddenly too quiet. Because the air has gone thick. Because your blade has never failed like this. You lower him gently. His body twitches. Once, then still. You examine the blade. It's in 2 pieces. The fracture clean. You whisper an oath. One of the old ones. Learned in the caves, beneath the salt monastery, where knives were named and punishments didn't need witnesses. This blade had lasted 12 jobs. It never failed. And still, the magistrate bleeds. You wipe your hands. They come away red. The blood runs, despite the failure. Which means you check his pulse. Gone. You check again. Still gone. You didn't kill him. But something did. Or someone. You look around. The study is quiet. Too quiet. No draft. No creaking wood. No mice in the walls. Just books. Ink. A paper still drying. You pick it up. The note is addressed to you. No name. Just you. It reads, I knew you'd come. The guilt needed a witness. You burn the note without thinking. Fact. In 13th century Florence there was a legend of the broken blade. Assassins who approached certain cursed men would find their weapons splinter on contact. Not because of magic, but because their target had already made peace. Killing them was redundant. The body had given up first. You sheath half a knife. You leave through the door, not the window. The hallway is lined with portrait, all of them faceless. Paint scrubbed away, not by time, by someone's hand. Someone who didn't want to be remembered. You walk through the front door into the rain. No one stops you. The town doesn't stir. You pass a fountain filled with black water. A dog sleeps beside it, ribs visible, dreaming of meat it will never taste. You drop the knife fragment beside its paw. The dog doesn't wake. You move on. As you reach the edge of town, the blood on your fingers dries into something darker, something sticky. You wipe them on the grass. It doesn't come off. You wake in someone else's bed, not warm, not soft, straw-stuffed, stiff as penance. The sheet clings to you like a damp confession. Your boots are still on. Your knife is missing. You don't remember lying down, but you do remember the dream. A voice. Low. Measured. It spoke Latin, but it didn't move its lips. You saw the bishop's ring before you saw his face. Ruby set in iron, grimed with something darker than wax. He never blinked. He never broke eye contact. And yet he never looked at you directly. He spoke inside your head. There is a man who calls himself king, but he forgets what was promised to the dark. You will correct this. Then a flash of face in a mirror. Yours, but younger. Smiling, which is how you know it's not real. Then silence. Now, you lie here. In the borrowed bed of a borrowed inn, candle burned down to a stub, wax pooled on the sill. You rise. The room sways like a ship. You spit on the floor. The taste of salt and vinegar, Someone drugged you. Or the dream itself did. You stagger to the basin. Splash your face. The mirror above it is cracked. One half shows your eye. The other, your scar. The middle, nothing at all. You check your pockets. Inside your left sleeve, a folded scrap of parchment. No ink, just an imprint. The ring, pressed in wax. The bishop's seal. You've never met him. Not in daylight, but he knows your name. Or whatever passes for your name now. You leave the room. The hallway is quiet, too quiet. This inn should creak, should mutter, should exhale sleep and spilled ale. Instead, it feels staged. Empty. You descend the stairs. The innkeeper is gone. The hearth is cold. The door is ajar. You step outside. Fog clings to the village like a lie too long kept. Chimneys exhale nothing. Doors are closed, windows shuttered. No birds, no dogs, no footprints in the frost except yours. And one more set. Hoofprints. Heavy, deep, fresh. They stop just before the chapel. You follow. The chapel leans like it's ashamed. One bell, cracked. One door, open. Inside, silence layered with incense. Candles burn on the altar, but there are no wicks, only flame, hovering gently above melted wax. At the foot of the altar lies a man, dead, eyes open, mouth smiling, hands crossed over his chest. His robe bishop's red, his ring missing. You step closer. A knife lies beside him. Your knife, still warm. You take it. His blood is still wet, but you didn't kill him, did you? The dream said nothing about this, or maybe it did. You just didn't understand. You examined the body, no wounds, no bruises, only a mark on his neck, a spiral burned into the flesh, same as the coin, same as the manor noble, same as the one behind your eyes now, faint but growing. You step back. The candles flicker. A voice speaks. Not aloud. Inside. He was never the bishop, only the vessel. You turn. No one there. Only shadows shaped like people who used to believe in God. The body twitches. You do not flinch. Instead, you kneel. Close his eyes. Not out of mercy, out of habit. In your training long ago, before they burned the library and sealed the well, the first lesson was this: never leave eyes open. They remember too much. You rise. Your hands are shaking. You sheath the knife. It sings. Not steel. A hum. Low. Like breath on glass. You leave the chapel. The fog thins. Birds begin to sing. Faint. Awkward. As if remembering how. But you know what you heard. The dream wasn't a dream. The voice wasn't yours. And the job it's already begun. Fact. In a disputed 14th century ecclesiastical record from Avignon, there's mention of a bishop who ruled from dreams, said to have orchestrated 3 assassinations without ever leaving his bed. He died smiling, eyes open, hands folded. The record ends May. God forgive those who heard him speak within. You walk into the mist. Your footprints vanish behind you, and somewhere, far from this place, a bell tolls with no clapper. The wall isn't made of stone. Not entirely. It pretends to be grey, moss-veined, streaked with rain and age, but beneath the lichen. You feel it ribs, not architectural, anatomical. The fortress rises above the moor like a scar the land never healed. Its battlements tilt inward, hunched like shoulders, and the tower at its centre glows faintly blue, as if remembering some fire that never quite went out. They told you this place was abandoned. They lied. Your boots sink into the bog as you approach. The ground slurps at your soles. Unwilling to let go, you move slowly, deliberately. Your cloak is soaked, your fingers cold, but you welcome the numbness. It's easier to kill when your hands don't feel like hands. The letter you received 3 nights ago tied to a crow's leg, sealed with no waxenly said one thing. The last of them waits inside the throat. You knew where to go. You were warned about the wall. What they didn't tell you, it breathed, only faintly, but you feel it. As you press your palm against its surface, a subtle flex, a long-held exhale. The stones shift slightly beneath your weight, not enough to shake you loose, but enough to make you feel watched. You begin the climb. Your fingertips search for holds, but they find only smoothness. The stones have been worn down, polished by hands far older than yours, or not hands. You pause, close your eyes, let your breath slow. Then, a foothold's more precise, like it was carved for someone your size. You ascend. Each movement is quiet, controlled. Your limbs ache from last night's cold chapel floor. A thorn in your thigh pulses. You ignore it. Wind claws at your cloak. Rain gathers in the crease of your spine. Halfway up, the smell hits you. Not rot, not sewage. Voices. The air smells of breath and fear and candle smoke gone stale. You know that scent. You've smelled it in prison cells and in oubliettes, in confession booths sealed too long. A memory surfaces. You as a child reaching into a dark hole for a coin and pulling out a tooth instead. You climb faster. A foot slips. You dangle for a second body pressed flat against the wet wall. Nails scraping moss. You do not scream. Screaming is for people who believe someone will come. You recover. Above, the battlement nears. You can see the iron spikes now, bent like arthritic fingers. One is wrapped in fabric blue, frayed. A flag. A robe. You grip the edge. Heave yourself up. The stone tears your palm. You feel skin split. Blood mixes with the rain. The pain is clean. You welcome it. You roll onto the platform. The wall is slick. Not from rain, from stories. That's what the old men in the southern markets say, laughing through their cracked teeth. That place is held together by the voices of the ones who died there. You touch the stone long enough. You hear them scream again. You believe them now. The battlement is empty. No guards. No torches. But the tower's door is open. Wide. You rise. Enter. Inside. The air is dry. Dustless. Sterile. The passage spirals downward. Not up. This is not a tower. This is a throat. You descend. Each step echoes, but not from your feet. The sound comes first, then your step follows. A delay, a mimicry, or a rehearsal. You test it. Pause. Lift your foot. And yet, the sound continues. 2 beats later, you're not walking alone, but you're the only one with a body. Deeper. The walls close in. Symbols line the stone etched with bone, stained with something darker than ink. They shift as you pass. Not illusions, reminders. One symboler spiral again. Larger this time, inverted, like an eye turned inward. Your heart stutters. The dagger on your hip feels heavier. You grip it. At the base of the throat, you find the chamber, square, silent, lit by something unseen. The air hums, and in the center him, seated, not bound, not frightened, just waiting. His hair is grey, his robe's black. A single chain circles his throat, loose like a lover's touch. His eyes open as you enter. "You're later than I expected," he says. His voice is familiar. Your lips part, but you don't speak, because it's your voice. Exactly. Tone. Tempo. Texture. As if your mouth were speaking across the room without your consent. "You've been dreaming of me," he says. "But you thought I was the bishop, or the man in the manor, or the girl in the orchard." He smiles. "You were wrong. You draw the dagger as he doesn't flinch. You can't kill me." You step closer. "I'm already dead," he says. You pause. "Then what am I here for?" you whisper. He gestures to the wall. You look. It's a mirror. But the reflection isn't yours. It's all of them. The victims, the clients, the watchers, a child, a monk, a noble, a man with no face, a bishop with no eyes. They all smile. They all whisper your name. You fall to your knees, not from pain, from weight. The air thickens. He stands, crosses to you, kneels, takes your chin in his hand, your hand, because it is your hand. His skin matches yours, his scar, his eye. You are him, or he is you. "I needed you to bring the final one," he says. You try to pull away. Too late. He presses his forehead to yours and breathes in. Your memories leave you in threads, one by one. The monastery, the climb, the girl, the tooth, the bishop, your first name, your last breath. He takes them all. You collapse. The chamber goes dark. Above, the wall moans, not with wind, with voices, screams. Fact in a banned treatise recovered from beneath the ruins of Carcassonne. There are claims of a sect known as the Mimics of the Veil, who created perfect assassins by erasing their identities and replacing them with fabricated ones used once, then discarded like breath in winter. It is unknown whether any survived. You wake, back at the base of the wall, rain on your face, mud in your mouth, your dagger is gone, your hands are clean, but the screams remain. They follow you now, not aloud, inside. You rise, you walk, you do not know why, but your legs remember. And so the work continues. The snow has already buried the roads when you arrive, white piled over black, like fresh lies over old sins. It deadens every sound except the crunch beneath your boots. Even that seems muffled, as if the ground resents being reminded it still exists. The village is asleep, or pretending to be. That's how you know they're expecting you. Snowflakes gather on your shoulders, each one a silence. They melt more slowly than they should. You don't shiver anymore. Cold gave up trying to enter your bones years ago. You step into the square. There's a well in the centre, boarded shut, ropes tied around it in symbols you recognise from the Salt Monastery. Protection spell sold ones, made of numbers and regret. You wonder what they're keeping out, or in. The note that brought you here was brief. He smiles too often, and not with his eyes. No name, no coin, just that sentence, wrapped around a dead mouse, nailed to the door of a tavern you hadn't yet entered. You followed, because that's what you do now. Follow the trail of rot, like a crow taught to fetch shiny things. The house you want is near the edge of town. Smoke curls lazily from the chimney thin, grey, almost polite, but the snow around the door is unbroken. No one's entered in hours, or they didn't leave tracks. You knock once, twice. A pause, then the door opens. He is young, too young. Maybe 19, maybe 20. Eyes blue as bruised fruit, hands wrapped in ink-stained linen. He smiles. The smile doesn't touch anything above the nose. Come in, he says. You do. The inside is warm, overly so. Fire flickers in the hearth. Too hot, too bright. The logs aren't burning. They're smouldering, hissing like serpents trapped in amber. You remove your cloak. He takes it from you, hangs it near the fire. You note the way he avoids touching the floorboards near the window. A trap, then, or a hiding place. He gestures to a chair. You sit. He pours tea. It smells of something between honey and rotting pine. I wasn't sure you'd come, he says. You sip the tea. Do not swallow. Wait. Watch. He does not drink. You ask why me? He tilts his head. You were the only one who remembered how to get here. Your fingers tighten on the cup. He sets his own down. Still full. The air shifts. A draught from nowhere. The fire leans, briefly, as if bowing. You spit the tea into your sleeve. It sizzles. Burns through fabric. Acid. You stand. He doesn't flinch. You're not the client. You say. He nods. You're not the target either. Again. That smile. No. He says. In the test. You draw your knife. But it's gone. You glance down. Your boot is untied, your belt unfastened, your cloak is gone. Where is it, you ask? He shrugs. Somewhere colder. You step back. Your heel brushes a board. Hollow. Trapdoor. He was bait. You were expected. He steps toward you, hand out, no weapon, just calm. I'm here to offer something better, he says. You're lying, you reply. He sighs. Yes, and lunges. You duck. Shoulder him hard into the table. The tea shatters. Steam rises. The fire roars. You plunge your hand into the hollow of your coat, hidden behind the hearth. You'd hidden a blade there hours ago, in case, always in case. You draw it. He rises, bleeding from the mouth, still smiling. You stab once, twice. He falls. The house sighs. The fire dims, and then slowly. He begins to change. Skin greys. Hair falls out in clumps. Fingers lengthen. Eyes shrink. Bones collapse inward. By the time he finishes dying, he's no longer a boy. He's something older, hungrier, and familiar. You've seen this shape before, in dreams, in mirrors, in the well. Fact: in parts of northern Europe during the 15th century, there were whispered accounts of the false guest entities that would take the form of forgotten apprentices, strange sons, or vanished siblings. They'd appear at doorways in winter, offering warmth, smiles, stories. Those who welcomed them would often vanish, or be found hollowed out, filled with snow. You leave the house. The snow has stopped, but the tracks behind you are wrong. Too many feet, too close together. You do not look back. The village watches from behind shutters. You feel their gaze. You wonder if they sent the note, if this was their way of feeding the thing, of testing your hunger. You reach the square. The well remains boarded, but the ropes are frayed. A symbol carved into the wood has been smeared by snow or something wetter. You tie it tighter. You murmur a word you haven't used since the monastery burned. It doesn't make you feel safer, but it quiets the wind. You leave town before dawn. Your blade still wet. Your tongue still numb. You taste pine, long after the fire is gone. The road out is long and silent, but beneath the snow, the earth is warm, too warm, like breath held too long. The mask comes wrapped in lamb's wool and sealed with wax bearing no sigil. You receive it in silence. As always, no courier, no note, no price named. Just the object, left in the hollow of a tree that wasn't there yesterday. It smells faintly of rosewater and iron. You do not ask whose face it was. You never do. By the time you reach the city, the sun has turned cold. It hangs in the sky like a dulled coin, and the buildings reflect none of its light. The streets pulse with the kind of noise that only silence makes, hundreds of mouths speaking at once. None of them to each other. It's the kind of place where secrets don't echo. They drip. You adjust the mask against your skin. It fits too well, too quickly. The eyes narrow to match your gaze. The lips part slightly, as if drawing in your breath. You feel your jaw unclench, your spine adjust. Your posture changes. You're no longer walking like yourself. But that's the point. Beneath your boots, the cobblestones are uneven. You trip once not because you stumble, but because the mask's gait doesn't match your own. That, too, is expected. The tavern is 3 stories tall, painted the colour of dried blood and roofed with clay tiles that weep in the rain. No signage, just a smudged handprint above the doorframe. You knock 4 times. A rhythm, not a code, but they understand rhythms here, especially the ones that came before language. Inside stale mead, low voices, and candlelight shivering against smoke-stained walls. You do not speak. You sit. You wait. He comes to you. He always does. Draped in cloth that has not been dyed, just left in the sun too long. His face is scarred. Not from battle. From ritual. He carries a folded letter in one hand, a needle in the other. He sits beside you. This is the last time. He says, you both know he's lying. You open the letter. It reads, the merchant prince dines beneath the old observatory. He has forgotten the terms. No signature. Just a smear of black powder. You fold it again. He takes out a mirror, offers it. You look, and you see someone else. A man with jowls, with thinning hair and a scar over one eye. A tax collector's face, or a butcher's. Not yours, not even close. The mask has taken hold. Too fast. Be careful, the man whispers. This one remembers. You nod. Not to him. To the part of yourself that's beginning to drift. You leave the tavern without finishing your drink. Outside, the city darkens, but the stars refuse to come out. They're waiting. The observatory sits on the hill's edge, a dome of rusted brass and broken glass. Once, it held the finest mirrors in the empire. Now, it holds secrets and dinners. You approach slowly. Guards flank the door, clad in wolfskin, hands on hilts. One eyes you. You nod. Say the name you were given, not aloud, with your face. Recognition flickers. They part. Inside marble steps, damp with age. Columns lined with velvet drapes, red, frayed. The scent of overcooked meat and perfumes that try too hard. The dining hall is a long corridor of gluttony. Gold-threaded tapestries, jewelled platters, a chandelier made of antlers. The prince sits at the head, laughing too loudly, surrounded by men with teeth too white and women with eyes like knives. You recognize none of them, but the mask does. Your feet carry you forward. The persona begins to guide your tongue. You bow. The prince looks up and blinks. Once, twice. Then, my dear friend. You're embraced. Your spine stiffens. He believes the mask. You take your seat. You nod at the toast. You sip the wine. You smile when you should. But with each motion, you feel yourself slip further back behind the mask's lips, behind its thoughts. It begins to think for you. The prince leans in. You came for your favor, didn't you? The voice that answers isn't yours. Yes, it is time. He laughs, slaps your back, and gestures for a servant. Moments later, a chest is brought out black oak, carved with moons and wolves. He opens it. Inside, not gold, not jewels. Teeth, dozens of them. Baby teeth, filed and painted, each with a number etched. I kept them all, the prince says, as promised. Your hands move. You select one. Number 23. He gasps. Her favourite. He murmurs. You do remember. You nod. And in that moment, a knife slides from your sleeve. The blade does not gleam. It absorbs. You stand. He blinks. The blade kisses his throat. Not deep, but perfectly placed. He falls, hands grasping at air that no longer belongs to him. You step back. No screams, just silence, because the room is not real. It begins to blur, to dissolve. The diners vanish. The table elongates, then shatters. You blink and you're alone, standing in a round room. Stone walls, no chandelier, no prince. Just you and the mask. You reach up to remove it, but it doesn't move. You dig your fingers under the edge. Your nails break. You scratch. It stays. Because it's not a mask anymore. It's your skin. You stagger. You scream. But the voice that escapes is still not yours. It's his. The prince's. It laughs and weeps. Fact in 16th century Venice. Rumours swirled of the Faciaria Guild of Mask Makers who created faces that bonded permanently to flesh. The masks were meant for spies, infiltrators. But over time, wearers lost the ability to recall their real identities. Some swore their thoughts were no longer their own. The guild was burned, but the mask survived. You crawl to the wall, scratch words into it. I was here. Then nothing. Time passes. You cannot measure it. Your limbs no longer obey the way they used to. Your mind drifts. Faces appear and vanish. Some familiar, some not. Then a knock. You rise. Open the door. It is you, the one you were. He wears a different mask now. He doesn't speak. He only nods, and you step aside. You've become the guardian. The next one enters. You close the door and forget again. You do not remember falling asleep. You only remember the sensation of rain on your temples, as if someone had whispered directly onto your skull. Then nothing. Now, your eyes open to a ceiling of parchment, long sheets of brown vellum stitched together with red thread. Each one scrawled with ink, some fresh, some faded. You blink slowly, trying to focus. You're lying on a bed that breathes, not rises and falls, breathes. Soft inhalations beneath your spine, as though the mattress were lungs stitched together from old regrets. You sit up, and the pillow whispers, "Tell her I never meant to leave." Your hand jerks away. The words had no speaker. The floor beneath your bare feet is layered with letters, stacked, nailed, arranged in fan patterns like the feathers of an enormous bird. Some are signed with names you think you remember from childhood. One is signed with your name, not the name you use now, the one before. You rise, cautiously. The house hums. It's not built of wood or stone, but of paper. Pages folded, overlapped, glued by candle wax and tears. The staircase leading downward is shaped from court summons, the banister from forgotten prayers. As you descend, the walls whisper, not in unison, in waves. Forgive me. Find the dagger. Don't trust the child with the green eyes. I loved you. I still do. The voices are not loud, but they sink into your skin like old wine into cotton. You step carefully, not out of fear, but reverence. At the base of the stairs, a door. It opens before you touch it. Beyond a hallway, You do not know how long it stretches. The end curves like the spine of a sleeping animal. Light slinks through slits in the ceiling, casting long lines across the floor like the bars of a cell, or the staves of unwritten music. You walk. Every few steps, you pass a door. Each one bears a nameplate, carved from fingernail or horn. The midwife who knew too much, the scribe who burned the map, the prince. With the hollow tongue, you do not open them, yet. At the end of the hall, a room filled with chairs. All of them are facing away, and all are occupied. Some figures twitch, some sob silently. One sings, but the tune is made entirely of vowel sounds, like the last breath before drowning. On the far wall a window, but no outside. Only fog, the kind that watches back. In the center, a single figure, standing. You approach. She turns. Her eyes are closed, yet she sees you. Her lips move. You hear the words in your head. You were not supposed to survive the last house. You nod, not from understanding, but compliance. She lifts her hand, reveals a folded paper bird. Inside a name, your next one. She places it into your mouth. It tastes of salt and birch sap. Swallow, she says aloud now. Her voice is the sound of a pen breaking in a courtroom. You do. The name burns going down, and then you feel it. A shift. You're no longer yourself. Not entirely. Your hands tremble, but not with fear, with anticipation. Your old name falls out your ears, fluttering to the floor like singed moths. The woman smiles. You may ask one question. She says, "You do not speak. You think." She answers before your thought finishes forming. The house writes itself. It waits for deathbed words, collects them, lives in them. You glance at the ceiling. It breathes now, faster. The house is listening. You leave the room, return to the hall. This time, one door is open, inside mirrors, but none reflect you. Only people you've killed. One adjusts his collar, one weeps, one smiles, just barely. One holds a knife. You turn. Behind you, a new door, always one more. Inside a table, a sheet of paper, a blade. The paper is blank. The blade is yours. Fact. In 14th century Moravia, records tell of a lost estate known as Dom Postenslov, the House of Last Words. Only those who had ended many lives could enter. Witnesses claimed its walls whispered confessions in dozens of dialects. No one who entered ever spoke aloud again, but ink stains were found beneath their tongues. You sit at the table. Your hands know what to do. You slice the edge of your finger. The blood beads up, bright as guilt. You write. He begged me to wait. I didn't. The page accepts it. So does the house. The whispers grow quiet. For a moment. Then one louder voice speaks male, hoarse, trembling. You missed one. You look down. Another name appears on the table. Carved, not written. Yours. The blade lifts itself. You do not resist. It carves slowly, not into flesh, into memory. You forget your favourite sound, your first lie, your worst kindness. The house drinks each fragment. You remain hollow, but useful. You rise. Another door. Beyond it, a meadow. False, painted. But the sky is real. It weeps lightly. You step outside. Behind you, the house collapses. Not with violence, with relief. As though it had said what it needed to say, and no longer needed to exist. Your clothes are dry, your fingers clean. But in your pocket a paper bird, still warm. The scariest part isn't the blood. It isn't the screaming. It's the warm pillow and the empty room. That's when you stop being sure if you're watching the assassin or if you've been the one lying there all along. The forest greets you like a wound welcomes salt. No path, no markers, just endless trees. Each one bowed slightly inward, as if listening. The branches whisper above your head, not wind, not language, but something like breath that has learned how to lie. It's not cold here, it's too warm, the kind of warmth that curdles milk and memory. You sweat before you've walked 10 steps, though the sun is nowhere to be seen. A mist clings to your skin, not damp, sticky, as if the air is tasting you. Your hands itch. You resist the urge to scratch. You follow no road, just a sensation that something waits. The vial in your pocket clinks gently, half filled with a syrupy liquid the colour of old rust. You were told it only works on those who have died more than once. You didn't ask what that meant. You're beginning to understand. The tree's thin. A clearing yawns open like a cracked eye, and there he stands, or what remains of him. The ghost wears no chains, no tattered robes, just simple clothes, a wool tunic, linen trousers, boots stained with something darker than mud. He stands beside a fallen log, sharpening a stick with a knife that no longer reflects light. He looks up, and you see your own face, not current, not past, a version of yourself that never learned mercy. He smiles, teeth stained purple. I thought they'd send you. His voice is like walking barefoot on frost. You do not respond. You step forward. Each movement feels echoed, not mimicked, predicted, like he already lived this moment and is only letting you pretend it's happening now. He gestures to the stump. You sit. The log is warm, too warm, like something has been sleeping inside it. He offers a flask. You don't take it. He nods approvingly. You're learning. Silence stretches. You break it. Why do you wear my face? He chuckles. You gave it to me. He leans back. Do you remember the bridge, the merchant, the sister? You do. You shouldn't. But you do. Flashes. A rope bridge. A woman's scream. Gold in the mud. Blood on your fingers that tasted like metal and perfume. The ghost watches you remember and drinks. Memory, he says, is the only true poison. You nod. Slowly. Then pull the vial from your pocket. His eyes flicker. You found it. You uncork it. A scent escapes. Not rot. Not vinegar. Ink. Old paper soaked in honey and regret. He inhales deeply. Delicious. He whispers. You offer it. He hesitates, then drinks. Slowly. The liquid glows briefly as it touches his tongue, then dims. He shudders. His skin begins to change. Wrinkle. Crack. Fissures bloom across his face like dried riverbeds. He drops the flask. It vanishes before hitting the ground. He groans, not in pain, in relief. You stand, but he grabs your wrist. His grip is stronger than it should be. Wait, he gasps. There's more. His eyes are leaking something that isn't tears. Letters. Tiny, curling script drips down his cheeks. You recognize your own handwriting. What did you give me, he asks. You don't answer, because you don't know. The instructions were clear. Feed him the wrong memory. That's all. But what is a wrong memory? He trembles and falls to his knees, then begins to change, not vanish. Change. His face becomes younger, then older, then a child's, then yours again, then a face you don't recognize, and again, and again. Each identity leaking from him like dye into water. He clutches his chest. I don't know who I am. You whisper, good. Fact, in 1537, an unverified account from the Black Abbey archives describes an entity known as the Echo Thief, a spirit said to copy the faces and voices of travellers, then die in their place. The only way to banish it was to poison it with a false truth, a detailed memory from a life never lived. Victims would collapse, gasping stories that didn't belong to them, before dissolving entirely. The forest begins to warp. Trees curl inward. The sky weeps ash. You step back. The ghost screams, not in agony, in laughter. He cries out names, some yours, some his, some from other lives. You turn, you run, but the forest does not end. The trees repeat. You see your footprints, then his, then neither, then too many. You drop to your knees, close your eyes, whisper forget, and the forest obeys. The trees vanish, the warmth dies, and you are alone, on stone, cold, dry. You look up. You're in a cave, lit by candles. Each one burns blue. They cast no shadows. The ghost is gone, but the memory isn't. You touch your chest. Your heart beats slower than before. 1 beat every 7 seconds. You time it. 1, 2, 3. Your breath fogs. The cave walls are inscribed, not with words, with scars, scratches, desperate, deliberate. Some resemble maps, others prayers. You stand. At the far end of the cave, a door. No handle. Just a symbol, a spiral. You place your palm against it. It opens. Beyond a spiral staircase. Descending. Of course. You go down. Each step echoes upward as if mourning your retreat. The spiral seems infinite, but eventually you reach a landing. And there another figure, not a ghost, not quite. More like a shell. It sits with its head in its hands, whispering. You crouch beside it. Listen, I poisoned him, it says, but I drank it too. You nod, because now you understand. You carry the ghost with you, not dead, not gone, just blurred. The lines between you and him are smudging. That's what they never told you. The job was never to erase him, nor it was to absorb him, to become something that remembers more lives than it lived. You rise. The shell doesn't follow. You leave it there. Its voice fades, but the echo doesn't. It never does. Parchment tastes of dust, ash, and dried blood. You chew slowly, forcing your tongue to flatten the brittle fibers against the roof of your mouth. You try not to gag. It's not the taste that unsettles you. It's the ink. It seeps between your teeth. It's still wet. You can feel it slipping down your throat like a forgotten oath being remembered. The words dissolve faster than the paper. You swallow. The heat blooms in your belly almost immediately. Not warmth, fire, like someone lit a candle behind your lungs. It burns away your hesitation, your doubt, your name. That was the price. You do not speak. You cannot. Because the contract forbade it. Your voice now belongs to the buyer. You don't know who they are. You've never known. That's how the Hall of Mute Blades keeps its assassins quiet. You make the kill, you eat the parchment, and the name leaves your head like a bird startled from a branch, or as it was meant to protect you. But the more you forget, the less of you remains. You stand in a room with no walls, just shadows, pressed thick against a blood-coloured horizon. The hall is always changing. You've seen it shaped like a cathedral, a theatre, a tomb. Today, it's a library with no books, only scrolls that unravel themselves in silence, then vanish. A bell rings somewhere behind your teeth. Assignment accepted. You walk forward. The door appears only when you stop looking for it. You step through. Now snow, thin as gauze, cold as bone. You're outside a small fortress built of timber and silence. No guards, just 6 watchtowers, each topped with a weather vane shaped like a skull. Inside lives the target. You do not know their face. You will never remember their name. Only their location, and the feeling in your stomach tight, hot, coiled. The same sensation every time a new life is set to end. You knock. A child opens the door. His eyes are far too old. He doesn't ask your name, just steps aside. You enter. The air inside is thick with the scent of pine resin and fermented cabbage. The walls are lined with cloth dyed in strange shapes, zigzags, spirals, repeating eyes. You do not look too long. The boy leads you to a low room lit by beeswax candles. At the centre, an old woman, seated, blind. Her hair is silver, her robes black. Her fingers are tattooed with runes that shimmer when you step closer. You're late, she says. Her voice is both yours and not yours. You pause. She cocks her head. Not in time, she clarifies. In self, you don't respond. Can't. Your voice is gone. She smiles. You ate the parchment. You nod. Do you know what that means? You shake your head. Of course not, she says. They never tell you what the ink is made of. She raises her hand, snaps her fingers. The boy returns, carries a small box, hands it to you. Inside a mirror. But the reflection is not yours. It's her, as she was young, beautiful, terrifying, and holding the same box. I made the parchment you ate, she says. The ink was mine. She leans closer, which means you've eaten me. You stagger. The fire behind your ribs flares. She nods. You feel it, don't you? The edges of me melting into the edges of you. You try to drop the box. Your hands won't obey. You cannot kill me now, she says softly. To do so would be suicide. She laughs. then sobers. But I will die anyway. Soon. And with me. So will you. The boy nods, as if this has all happened before. You kneel, not from reverence, from failure. She reaches forward, places a finger on your forehead, and speaks a word you don't understand. The pain that follows is not pain, it's pressure, as if your soul is being refolded into a smaller box. Inside your mind, memories bloom like poison flowers, not yours, hers. You see yourself as a child, only it isn't you. It's her. You watch a man fall from a tower. You watch a king choke on figs. You feel the weight of years you never lived, she whispers. You will carry me now, until someone eats your name, and the ink begins again. Fact. In early 17th century Russia, certain sects of political assassins practiced a rite called perimena teni, or the changing of shadows. The assassin would ingest a contract written in blood ink made from the target's own genetic material. It ensured accuracy, but carried the risk of memory transference. Several documented cases involved assassins collapsing post-kill, whispering in tongues they'd never spoken. You wake, alone. The fortress is gone, the snow is clean, too clean. There are no footprints, not even yours. You check your hands, the tattoos are there now, her tattoos. You scream but no sound comes out. A crow watches from a tree branch. Its eyes are familiar, it caws. You nod, because now you understand. You were never hired, you were delivered. You lie in the centre of a circle carved from salt and bone dust. The wind has gone quiet. The sky is not black, not grey, just absent. A colourless lid pressed over the world. You're in the mountains now, somewhere high, higher than trees, higher than birds, higher than memory. The blade rests on your chest. Its tip points toward your throat, its hilt wrapped in snakeskin, its metal darker than blood, older than fire. It does not reflect you. It reflects what you will become. You close your eyes. The ritual requires sleep, but sleep does not come gently. First the knife sings, not in sound, in vibration, a deep thrum through your sternum, like a harp strung with tendons. You feel it in your molars, then images, not dreams, visions, but not of your past, of your future, a future that has already happened in the mind of the knife. You see yourself in red robes, standing before a crowd that chants your name but not the name you use now. You see your own hands writing a letter you don't remember learning how to spell. You see a city burning, and you holding the torch. You see yourself die, more than once. One time in water, one time under a tree that bleeds, one time smiling, your neck pressed against a mirror. You see someone weeping. You don't know if it's you. The visions speed up. Each heartbeat pulls you further. Time splits. You walk 2 roads at once. On one, you kneel beside a wounded child. On the other, you step over her body and keep walking. The knife knows both. It does not judge. It only remembers. You feel your ribs separate slightly, just enough for the blade to whisper directly into your lungs. It tells you a name. You have never heard it before, but you know it's yours, from some future, some war, some sin you have not yet committed. You breathe it in, and with it comes pain, real pain. Your skin splits just beneath your left collarbone. No blood, just a word etched into flesh, a single, curling symbol. It glows faintly, then fades. The knife has marked you, not as a killer, as a survivor of a death that hasn't happened yet. You open your eyes. The circle is gone. The sky is purple now, bruised and twitching. You sit up. The knife is no longer on your chest. It's in your hand. Warm, like it just returned from a journey you didn't accompany. You look down at your arm. The tattoo pulses once, then stills. Footsteps crunch behind you. You turn. No one there, but the scent of smoke is fresh, and a note flutters at your feet. Scrawled in charcoal, you brought this with you. Fact in 11th century Khorasan. Records mention a cult of blade seers called the Dargin. They believed certain knives could remember the deaths they would one day inflict. New initiates slept with the blade on their chest during the waxing moon to receive glimpses of potential futures. Many awoke screaming, some did not awaken at all. You pocket the note, you stand, the horizon ripples, not heat, not illusion, time. It folds briefly, like cloth in a cold wind, and from that fold, something steps through. You don't see it. You only hear its breath, a mirror version of your own. It circles you, close enough to touch, but never does. The knife begins to hum again, low, disapproving. You whisper a word, the one it taught you, and the thing vanishes, like fog under glass. You are alone again, but changed. The wind resumes, colder now. It presses against your face like a warning. You begin to walk, downhill. Each step erases the one before it. Each breath draws you closer to a city that no longer exists. You pass a tree with no leaves. Its trunk is split, inside a hollow, filled with water. You look in and see yourself. Older, tired, still alive, still holding the same knife. You smile, but your reflection does not. Instead, it lifts its blade and draws a line across its own throat. The water goes still. You step back and keep walking. You arrive at the cathedral just before the world forgets its shape. No bells, no procession, only wind, and the last sigh of sun before it is eaten by the mountain. The building looms above you, not tall but wide, like something that grew here slowly and then stopped, satisfied. It was not built, it molted. The stone is dark, green-veined, and wet as if the walls are sweating. You step inside. The doors do not close behind you, though. They disappear. No transition. One moment they exist, the next they do not. The air within the cathedral is colder than stone, warmer than death. You shiver, but not from chill. The hush in this place is not silence. It's listening. Each step echoes before you take it. Sound travels backward here. The nave stretches out like a corridor in a dreamer-long, ribbed vault of bone and brass. Stained glass windows line either side, but the images are blurred, faces smeared, eyes weeping molten lead. You cannot tell if they are saints or victims, possibly both. You walk forward. At the far end an altar, and above it, nailed to the wall like a question, is the relic, the saint, or what's left of him. Bone picked clean and lovingly adorned. Silver wires wrap his limbs. Gold filigree webs his empty eye sockets. Each rib is inlaid with garnet. His heart remains inside the cage of his chest, and it beats, slow, reluctant, remembered. You kneel. It is not prayer. It is submission. The Order of the Silent Palm sends each of its surviving blades here once in a life. No reasons given, no rewards promised. Only this command: return to where your shadow was born. You wait. Time passes like melted wax, thick and warm and irreversible. Then, a movement. Behind the altar, a figure. Neither priest nor ghost. They wear robes made from unspun wool, the colour of dried bone. Their face is concealed by a mask of copper and antler. The mask is not symmetrical. It pulses faintly. They do not speak. They hold out their hands. In one a candle, thick, black, unlit. In the other a blade, curved, vein blue. You reach forward, take the candle. The blade is not offered to you. That will come later, if you survive. The trial is simple. Descend into the catacombs. Light the candle. Return. No fire allowed. No tools. No torch. Only the flame that waits below. If you return with the light intact, you may kill again. If not, you join the ones who whisper beneath the altar. The masked figure steps aside. The stone floor opens like a sigh. A stairwell spirals downward, each step carved with names in dozens of languages, many of which you cannot read, some of which are your own. You begin the descent. The air grows thicker, like syrup poured through a sieve. The further you walk, the further back your memories stretch, until they are no longer yours. You remember a war you never fought. You recall a woman's voice saying your name, but the mouth is wrong. You feel a dagger enter your own throat, slowly, lovingly, and yet you are alive. You descend further. The steps end. A chamber opens before you, filled with shadows that do not move, even when your candle passes them. They cling to the walls like soot. You pass figures sitting cross-legged in the dust, silent, still. their candles long gone, their voices eaten. You do not look at their faces. You reach the chamber's centre. There, a pool. No water, just light. Pale, twitching. Slightly off colour like moonlight passed through smoke. Above the pool hovers the flame. It is not fire, it is memory, burning. Your hand trembles. You lower the candle into the light. It catches. The wick turns blue, then white, then invisible. The light lives, and it remembers. You turn, and the whispers begin. You left her behind. You hesitated. You begged for your own life. They forgave you. While you ascend, every step up is heavier than the last. Your legs ace not from effort, but guilt. The candle does not flicker. It sings. A hum just below hearing, just beneath bone. You know this tune. You heard it once in your mother's breath, the moment before she vanished into dust. You keep climbing. A figure blocks your path, not masked, not alive, just a body, tall and wrong, smiling with every tooth it has left. I held the light. It whispers. But I turn to look. You do not look. You pass. The candle dims. You hum the saint's name to it. It steadies. At the final step, the door is waiting. You step through, and the figure in bone-coloured robes waits. So does the altar. So does the relic. You place the candle at the foot of the altar. It flares. The saint's heart answers. One beat, then another. The masked figure raises their arms. They speak one word. Trade. The blade is offered. You take it. It is warm. Familiar. It weighs the same as your first lie. You are shown a mirror. It shows the saint's face. It shifts. Now your face. Your eyes. But older. Calmer. Dead. You're not replacing him. You're becoming him. It was always you. The candles around the cathedral light one by one, without touch. Each reveals a figure kneeling in pews long thought empty. Others like you, watching, waiting. You're not alone, but you are singular. The blade drinks your reflection. You're its shadow now. The masked figure lowers their arms. The ritual is complete. You leave. Outside. It is snowing. But the flakes do not fall. They rise. The world is upside down. You walk anyway. You no longer cast a shadow. But behind you, the footprints never fill, as though something still walks behind. Not beside. Behind. The city is made of whispers. Tall, brittle houses stitched together from rumour and soot. Windows blink open and shut like eyes too exhausted to sleep. The streets slope inward, not down, but incurling like the folds of a brain trying to forget something dangerous. You walk these alleys alone, not cloaked, not hidden. You do not need to be. No one here says names aloud. That would be asking to be followed. Your boots make no sound. The fog beneath your feet rises and sighs with each step, as if disappointed by your return. A cat watches from a broken window, one eye missing, the other shaped like a coin. You're here for a man, but no one will call him that. He has had too many names, each one false, each one sharp enough to cut through a prayer. His most recent alias was Brother Scion, a kindness. He used to go by worse, the kind of names that get etched into teeth. You pull the last message from your pocket, a scrap of silk, folded 12 times, stained with salt. It holds a symbol, a line through a circle through an eye. It means target confirmed. It also means this one won't stay dead. You burned him once already, 7 years ago. In a monastery surrounded by sand, you saw the fire eat him, you watched his body crack open, but you never found the bones. Now he walks again, and every time he returns, he remembers more. You step into the house where he last vanished. It smells of mint and dust and something too old to name. The stairs tilt slightly inward, like the building is listening. You ascend. The 3rd floor ends in a door that wasn't there yesterday. You knock. The door breathes, then opens. Inside, no light. Just velvet darkness, humming. You speak his name. Not aloud. Inside your chest. A name that should not echo, but it does. It echoes back. The room inhales you. Now you are inside it. Not just in the room, inside the room. You taste the wood of its walls. You hear the floor's heartbeat. You feel its memories pressing against your ribs. You are trespassing, and it knows. A light appears ahead, faint, flickering. You move toward it. It pulses in time with your own breath, a candle on a low table. Beside it a man, thin, hunched, hands folded neatly in his lap. His face is covered by a veil of threads. Blue, always blue. He speaks before you do. I'm not him anymore. His voice is wet velvet dragged across gravel. You say nothing. He laughs, softly. Did you bring the mirror? You did. You place it on the table. A piece of obsidian, polished until it remembers. He leans forward, does not look into it. He lets it look into him. The surface ripples and begins to show, not images, but names, one after another, thousands, scrolling upward in slow agony. He winces. Every name is his, every one a life he lived and discarded, each one a kill, each one a birth. He whispers, I was a gardener once. He touches the glass. I buried my wife with hands still stained from another man's throat. You draw the knife, the one etched with his oldest name. He sees it and sighs. You know what happens when I die. You do. He comes back, but less human. Each time, he returns with a different hunger. The first time revenge, the second peace, the third understanding. This time he doesn't say, but his eyes are clear. He wants release. You offer the knife. He takes it, presses the point to his throat, then stops, looks up, and asks, will you carry me next time you do not answer? Because you already know you will. That's how the order survives. The worst of us become the fuel. He closes his eyes and pulls the blade. There is no scream, only the sound of fabric tearing underwater. Blood falls, but not red, black, and it moves, not downward, up, toward the ceiling, where it sticks, forms a shape, a letter, the first of a new name. Fact. In 1452, the Codex of the Nine Mouths describes a man executed 17 times by order of different kings. Each time he returned, his memories became more fractured but more dangerous. Known only as Vezor, he was finally entombed in a mirror chamber sealed with breath. His final words were one more death and I will be someone else. You leave the building. The door vanishes behind you. Not a trace, no sound, just the taste of ash in your throat. You walk to the water's edge, drop the mirror into the tide. It doesn't splash. It hisses, then goes silent. On your palm a new symbol, burned there, not by heat, by memory. You close your hand. The name begins again. The invitation is sewn into your skin. You find it stitched along your left forearm, just beneath the place your old mentor bit you before he disappeared into the bell tower. Black thread, small cursive, written in a language the body understands before the mind does. You pull it free, one stitch at a time. It doesn't bleed. It sighs. The thread coils like a living thing in your palm, then stiffens into a thin, wrinkled parchment. It reads, you are cordially expected. Bring only your hunger. There is no signature. But the wax seal at the bottom bears the emblem of the forked tonguer, forgotten sect of the Assassin's Guild said to eat the names of their targets and store them behind their molars for later use. The location is not written, but you already know where to go. Because the moment you finish reading, your feet are already walking. The world around you begins to blur, not vanish, just fall away like old wallpaper. By the time your senses clear, you're at the threshold of the feast hall. It is not a building. It is a cavern shaped like a cathedral, with walls of pressed bone and chandeliers made from the ribs of people who regretted their appetites too late. A woman greets you at the door. She has no face, only a mask of dried honeycomb. Bees still drift in and out of its holes. She says nothing, only opens her hand. Inside, your name, written on a grain of rice. You eat it. It cuts your throat on the way down. That is the toll. The great doors open. They do not creak. They murmur. The scent inside is unbearable. Roasted guilt, boiled secrets, fear reduced over low heat until it becomes syrup. There are no seats, only standing guests. Each holds a knife and a goblet. Each has their lips sewn shut, but they smile, because everyone here is full. You take your place. A servant approaches. You know him. You killed him. Once, poisoned his wine with crushed moonflower and nailed his will to a church door. Now he hands you a plate. It is empty, but not clean. You see the outline of a mouth in the porcelain, where someone once whispered too close. He bows, then walks away backward. A gong sounds. It is not metal. It is a human skull struck by the saint's knucklebone. Everyone lifts their knives. You mimic them. The host enters, cloaked in velvet, eyes sewn open. His mouth has been replaced with a mirror. He raises a ladle and begins to serve, but not food. Names. Each ladle of broth contains a single name. You must drink the one that matches the shape of your guilt. You hesitate. Only for a breath. But that's enough. The person next to you leans in. Their lips break their stitching with a wet snap. They whisper, "You're starving." You sip. The name in your goblet tastes like cold brass and ruined music. You swallow, and the memories come. A boy on a bridge. Your dagger. His question. Are you sure it's me? The echo of that question has followed you through 3 countries. Now it settles in your stomach, heavy, hot, satisfied. The host speaks without moving his mouth. His voice enters through your ears and exits behind your eyes. You may now begin the course of regret. Servants enter, each carrying trays of knives. You're told to pick the one that feels most familiar. You choose a thin blade etched with tally marks. Each mark glows, but one remains dark. It's waiting for the name you just drank. You press the blade to your palm, let it taste you. The blood bubbles not red, but silver. The final tally mark lights. You are complete again. But completion feels like sinking. Across the room, someone chokes. Not from food, from memory. They drop their goblet. Inside it, newborns laugh, trapped in amber, shatters. The room goes quiet. The host turns, points. A servant drags the choking guest away. No screams, just the soft gasp of someone remembering who they used to be. The meal continues. You are served a second course. Not a name, a place. It smells like wet wood and dead candles. You eat it, and remember a cabin in the snow. You, her, a choice. The door that should have stayed locked. You drop your knife, and the floor opens. Only beneath you. You fall, but not far. Only deep. Now you're beneath the feast hall, the kitchen. You're alone, except for the pigs. They are not pigs. They wear masks of men. They eat only what you regret. You're given a spoon. You're told to feed them. Your first memory, a laugh you didn't protect. They eat it, gratefully. The next, a promise broken in a moment of weakness. Then a kindness left undone. You feed them until you feel nothing but static where your name used to be. They grunt in approval. One bites your hand. You do not bleed, only forget. The floor rises again. You are back in the feast hall, but it is empty. Everyone has eaten and gone. The host stands alone at the altar and he removes his mask. Beneath it, your face. Not as it is now, as it will be. Older, wiser, worse. You understand. The banquet was not for you to eat. It was for you to remember how hungry you've become. You kneel. The host places a seed on your tongue. It bursts. You're filled with light. It burns your eyes from the inside. You see your next target. It is not a man. It is not a woman. It is a cathedral made from mirrors, and it remembers you. The fog doesn't lift it parts, as though the world itself is reluctantly making room for you. You stand before the mirror cathedral. It isn't made of mirrors. It is a mirror, a building-sized pane of silvered glass, cracked and humming, folding light in on itself until every reflection is almost right. Almost. You do not see yourself in its walls. You see versions, variations. You, if you had turned left. You, if you had buried the child. You, if you had let the priest go. You, if you had taken the coin and walked away. All of them stare at you. None of them blink. You walk forward. The door appears only after you accept it might not. It opens without sound. Inside silence so dense it wraps around your bones like silk soaked in wax. Your boots leave no echo. The first room is a nave of infinite reflections. Each wall tilts slightly, just enough to distort. You glimpse your face repeated hundreds of times, some smiling, some weeping, some gone completely. Fact. In 14th century Dalmatia, Rumors spread of a monastery where assassins trained inside a glass temple. They were taught to memorize the movement of their own reflections so thoroughly they could predict their enemies' attacks before they happened. Few returned. The ones who did wouldn't look at themselves ever again. You pass beneath a glass archway etched with words that change when you don't look directly at them. A prayer, perhaps, or a warning. The next chamber is filled with water up to your ankles. It is ice cold and perfectly still. As you step, your own ripples delay slightly as if your reflection beneath the surface is considering whether or not to follow. It eventually does, but slower, more deliberately. A test. You begin to run. The water never splashes. Your footsteps feel silent, but behind you, you hear another set. Not chasing, just mimicking. You stop. They stop. You breathe in, the air taste of steel and perfume, your old scent, from the life when you were a bride killer. You continue forward. The corridor splits, left the smell of lilies and parchment, right the sound of breath being held. You choose right. The hallway tightens as you go, until you are nearly crawling, brushing against cool glass with every movement. The glass hums with memory. Not yours. Not yet. You reach a chamber so black it feels like you've stepped out of time. At its centre stands a mirror taller than you, framed in silver filigree woven with the alphabet of a dead god. You approach, and the mirror shows not you, her, the one, the girl you let escape. She looks older now, wiser, wearing your dagger on her belt, your face on her necklace. She opens her mouth and speaks, but the sound comes from behind you. You turn, and there she is, alive, real, no longer a memory. She doesn't flinch. She looks at you the way a lion might look at its old keeper, grateful, pitying, ready to kill. I thought you'd come, she says. You don't speak. You reach for the blade at your belt. She raises a hand. No, not that way. You pause. She removes the necklace, holds it up. The glass inside it shimmers. Do you want it back? You shake your head, because you don't. You want to remember why you lost it. She steps closer and presses the necklace to your chest. It burns, but does not injure, only reminds. You feel the moment again, the choice you made, the order you disobeyed, her life in exchange for your shadow. You kept hers alive, but lost your own. The mirror behind her warps, reveals a door. She nods toward it. She's waiting. You pass her. Your shoulder brushes hers. Warm, alive. The door is made of obsidian. When you touch it, your fingers vanish. Not physically, historically. The door eats records, deletes lineage, erases every time your name was spoken in fear. You step through and fall. The fall is long, but soft. You land on velvet, a room with no corners, only walls of slowly breathing glass. You stand. She is there. Not the girl, not the mirror, the saint, but not as relic, not nailed above altars. Here, she is whole, alive, terrible, beautiful. She wears your shadow like a shawl. Her eyes are galaxies of unspoken regrets. Her voice is wind through cathedral halls long since abandoned. You made it, she says. You nod. You do not kneel. Not here. Not now. She smiles. Why are you still alive? A question you've never asked yourself out loud. You answer, because I never finished dying. She steps closer. The floor doesn't react. This place doesn't obey physics, only memory. She raises a hand. It holds a fruit. Black. Pulsing. Eat. She commands. You do. It tastes like everything you never said, everything you buried, every scream you muffled behind duty. You swallow, and the glass begins to crack. The cathedral groans. Your face in every mirrored panel begins to weep blood. She is still smiling. Now you understand, she says, what you were never meant to kill for others. The ceiling opens. Light pours in, but not sunlight. Judgment. She fades. Not away. Into you. You become her. You become the saint. The glass shatters. You rise into the night. Whole. Here is your fully immersive and poetically unsettling. The mountain does not welcome you. It never did. You climb not toward glory, but toward something that used to be sacred before you made it rotten. The wind cuts your face with hands made of ash and regret. Each gust carries voices, not screams, not words, but unfinished prayers, blown apart mid-syllable. The trail is gone. The trees have vanished. Only rock and smoke remain. You are ascending toward Alamut, or the memory of it. The fortress is supposed to be in ruins, but ruins have memories too, and tonight, they remember you. Your knees ache in the cold. Your left boot splits open along the sole, revealing the scar across your foot gifted to you by a girl who knew too much and died too young. You touch the hilt of your blade, not for reassurance, for permission. It grants none, but it doesn't stop you either. The path narrows into a ridge carved by old avalanches and older sins. Somewhere beneath you, the valley stretches wide and hungry. It has devoured entire armies. You remember this ascent. You were 12 the first time, blindfolded, hands bound, told to walk until your fear fell off the edge. You did. You made it. Your brother did not. No one spoke his name again. You do now, softly, to the rocks, to the wind. The air doesn't react, but your breath forms his face in the frost. It lasts 3 seconds, then melts. At the summit, there is no gate, only a wall of shadow rippling like hot tar left out in moonlight. You step through it. The fortress doesn't appear. It remembers itself around you, one stone at a time. Towers regrow, windows blink open, doors breathe. The scent is familiar old iron, ink, cloves, and decay. Fact. In the legends of the Nizari, the fortress of Alamut was not just stone, it was mind. A living memory palace. Only the worthy could survive its hallucinated architecture, where walls shifted based on doubt and staircases appeared only for those who had no more questions. You walk through the threshold. Your boots click against floors tiled with knives. They do not cut you. Yet, the main hall is vast, lined with statues of failed disciples, each one holding their own severed tongue. Their mouths are open, as if mid-sentence. You do not look at them. They will speak if you do. Their words are contagious. The throne is still there, empty, its cushion stitched from the cloaks of assassins who disobeyed their final orders. You sit. You shouldn't, but you do. And the mountain notices, the fortress exhales, and from the corners, figures emerge. You recognize none of them, but they all wear pieces of your past. One has your old gloves, the ones you wore when you killed the false bishop of Navarra. Another wears your mother's ring, still stained with wine and soot. Another carries your laugh. You want it back. You stand. They circle you, not threatening, just watching. Their faces are blank where yours used to be. One steps forward, whispers, "Did you bring the question?" You nod. You take out the coin. Small, copper, dented, stamped with the face of a prince who died screaming. You flip it. It lands in your palm. One side a hand, the other an eye. You show them the eye. The room shifts. Now you're in the Hall of Initiates. Red banners hang like flayed skin. The pillars sweat. In the center the book. No title, just page after page of blank vellum that bleeds when touched. You are meant to write something in it. A name, a regret, a vow. You hesitate. Your blood drips onto the page. It writes itself, "I would kill again," if it meant forgetting her. You don't remember writing it, but the page steams in agreement. You look up. The others are gone. Now the room is filled with masks. Dozens. Hundreds. Floating. Each one from a life you ended. You see the executioner from Prague, the poisoned baker, the boy in the theatre. They each look at you. They nod. They forgive. But one mask turns away. It refuses. It was the girl in the snow. You told yourself it was mercy. The memory disagrees. The fortress begins to quake. Its walls know your lie. A fissure splits the floor. You fall through. You land in the catacombs. Not the crypts of death, but of memory. Each cell holds a version of you, sleeping, twitching, some younger, some older, some monstrous. One wakes, looks at you, and smiles. "I thought you'd never come." You ask what this place is. He answers it's the part of you that remembers why you started. You sit beside him. He holds a cup of water, offers it. You drink. It is bitter. not with poison, with truth. You see yourself before the training, before the mask, before the blade, a child, scared, hungry, carving a bird from wood to keep your hands warm, your mother singing, your brother laughing, a night before it all changed, before they died, before you swore you would never need again. You open your eyes, the cell is gone. You're in the garden of the founder, the one where no blood was ever spilled. A tree stands in the center, dead but defiant. Its branches curve like reaching fingers. You walk to it. A fruit still hangs, just one. You pluck it. It dissolves, revealing a scroll. You read it. It says the final target is always you. You kneel, not in worship, in exhaustion. The garden fades. The mountain returns. You're on the peak. The wind howls. The snow begins to rise upward. You feel the world slipping. Time folds. The fortress unbuilds itself. You're alone again, but lighter. Because you remembered. Because you forgave something. Not her, not them, yourself. You descend. The path reappears. The fog opens for you. This time, it welcomes. The first thing you notice is the weightlessness. Not the kind you feel in dreams. Not the float of sleep. But the feeling of being completely detached from your name, your body, and your usefulness. Your hands hover in front of you, calloused, ghostly, neither here nor elsewhere. Your boots rest on a cobblestone path that stretches forward in absolute silence, but no wind, no birdsong, not even the creak of your spine when you finally stand straight after years of crouching through tunnels and regrets. You've passed through death, or something like it. No one told you what comes after. They told you how to vanish, how to fake a funeral, how to slit a throat without moving the blade more than 3 inches, but no one prepared you for after. The city around you is blurred, not with fog, but with time. It hums, softly, like a lullaby sung to a sick god. Buildings lean inward, windows flicker with scenes you half remember. A woman brushing her daughter's hair, a butcher counting silver, a bishop blessing a meal already poisoned. Each window shows a moment from lives you altered, not shattered, just tilted. Some for coin, some for faith, some because you were told to, some because you didn't know how to stop. Your reflection appears in a shop window, but it's not your face, it's your face at 7, chasing pigeons through a plaza you later turned into a graveyard. You look away. Even now, mirrors know how to punish. You walk on. No one sees you. People pass through you like a warm draft in winter. And yet, something shifts when you cross a threshold. Butcher's stall, a church door, an alley gate. They don't turn, but something in them reacts. A muscle tightens, a baby cries, a lantern flickers. It's not you they sense. It's what's behind you. You turn. There is nothing. Only the quiet. But quiet is never truly empty. You keep walking. The cobblestones slowly become tile-worn, cracked, glazed in the old wax. You pass under an archway you don't remember, though your feet know exactly how to move beneath it. You are being guided, not by hands, but by debts. In the courtyard ahead stands a man in white robes. His face is covered by a veil sewn from bandages. He holds a scroll. You recognize him. He's the final archivist, the one who inscribes the names of those the world must forget. He unrolls the scroll, a list of names in ink that smells of iron and remorse. You search for yours. It isn't there. He tilts his head. No name means no death. You shake your head. There is no one left to remember me. He nods. That is not the same. He offers a quill. You take it and write, but not your name, your question. What was I for? The scroll absorbs it like water into sand. Then, slowly, a doorway opens behind the archivist. Black stone, white fire. It leads down. Of course it does. You descend. The staircase curves like a spinal cord. Each step hums beneath your heel with the tone of a voice you silenced. On the 33rd step, you hear your brother's laughter. On the 61st, your mentor's whisper, make it look like mercy. At the 108th step, the staircase ends. You stand in a chamber that feels older than the mountain. It breathes, not metaphorically. The walls pulse. The ceiling exhales. There is a bed in the center, a mirror above it, a figure on the sheets. It's you, paler, still. Eyes open, but unseeing. A pulse moves in the neck, barely. You touch the chest. It's cold, but not lifeless. You are watching your body forget itself. This is the final room, where assassins come to be erased, not killed, not punished, just dissolved. You sit beside your former self, take its hand, feel your own heartbeat through another skin, and then you hear it a step. Someone else is in the room. You look up. The figure is cloaked in feathers, not black, not white, iridescent, like an oil slick. Their face is a mask carved from bone, no mouth, just 2 eye holes and an hourglass where the nose should be. They say nothing, but the room tenses. The air grows still. They offer you a key. Its teeth are shaped like letters in a language that doesn't exist anymore. You know what it unlocks. The mirror above the bed, the one with your reflection still locked inside. You take the key, insert it. The mirror inhales. It bends inward like glass melting over a flame. And then it opens. A wind blows through. The feathers of the masked figure lift and dance. Inside the mirror is not your reflection. It is your opposite, not your enemy. Your twin. Had you chosen peace? They look at you. Then at your body on the bed. They say one word. Choose. You understand? You may enter the mirror or stay here. As the husk, as the memory. You breathe. You kneel. And for the first time, you say your own name aloud. It doesn't echo. It roots. You touch the mirror and step through. At first, it feels like drowning. Then like being born. Your skin stings. Your lungs reset. Your back straightens. You wake on a riverbank. Sunlight filters through reeds. Children laugh in the distance. A heron lifts off from the water's edge, startled by your breath. You look at your hands. New scars, but none you recognize. No blade. No cloak. Just peace. You walk into the town. No one knows you. But they greet you. A baker hands you bread without asking for coin. A girl waves. A dog sniffs your palm. You sleep that night in an inn that smells of cinnamon and old wood. No dreams come. No names haunt. Just the hush of wind and the comfort of bedsheets that remember nothing. But the next morning before dawn, a knock at your door. You open it. No one is there. Only a box. Inside a candle. Unlit. And a note. 5 words. They remember you in whispers. You light the candle. It burns purple. And from the smoke a voice. We never forget our own. Count Wilhelm believed that dreams contained the soul. That if you could delay sleep long enough, you could catch the dream before it entered the mind. He hired scribes to sit beside his subjects and write down every word they spoke as they teetered into delirium. He called them harvesters. You find one of their transcripts, subject 10, said he saw a door inside his own skull. Said he heard chanting behind it. Said the Count was knocking. Asked if he should open it. We said no. He did anyway. The Count wasn't alone in his obsession. Across Europe, nobles were quietly fascinated with the idea that sleep hid secrets, that visions were visitations, that between wakefulness and dreaming, one might find truth, and truth, of course, was dangerous. That's why the Count kept them talking. Want something strange? In 1691, a physician in Geneva performed wakefulness trials on choir boys, believing the sleep-deprived mind would sing in perfect Latin without learning it. One boy began to sing entire psalms in reverse. The trial ended when the physician's wife reported hearing the songs before they were sung. Back in the Count's chamber, the man in the chair finally blinks. Once. Then, slowly. He raises one finger and taps it against the armrest. You realize the indentations along the wood aren't decorative. They're recordings. 1 tap for each hour. Thousands. You step back. On the wall. Portraits. All the Count's subjects. Painted mid-experiment. Eyes dark. Lids heavy. Smiles twisted with effort. One is upside down. Another has no eyes, just black orbs scratched into the canvas. Beneath each frame, a name and a number. Karl, 6 days. Isolde, 8 days. Unnamed, 11 days. Wilhelm, 14 days. Yes. The Count turned the experiment inward. In the final book, you find his personal notes. Day 9. I cannot feel my fingers. I believe they are asleep without me. Day 11, I saw my own reflection move before I did. Day 13, I am speaking to someone who wears my voice. Day 14, there is no more counting. He stopped writing after that. But someone else finished the book. Same handwriting, a different pressure. You check the chair again. The man's lips have stopped moving, but the chair continues to creak. Like he's still shifting in a dream you're not allowed to enter. Zoom out. Sleep is the border between the body and the unknown. And Count Wilhelm wanted to stand on that border and build a fence, one made of numbers, of observation, of sleepless souls. But you can't map dreams. You can only fall into them. And if you never fall, you never wake up either. Want another oddity? In Austria, one royal physician claimed that sleep was a form of slow suicide. He injected his patients with caffeine mixed with deer bile and forced them to recite nursery rhymes every hour on the hour. The longest survivor lasted 12 days. He claimed to have seen God. Then he recited the rhyme backward and collapsed. Back here. The phonograph stutters. The lullaby ends. But the needle keeps spinning. And behind you, the Count's portrait shifts slightly in the candlelight. His eyes are open, and he's still counting. The next hallway tilts. Not visually your footing remains level, but something in your inner ear whispers wrong. Like the floor was built on a slant no eye can catch. Your fingers skim the wall for balance. Cold stone again, gritty with ash and faintly tacky. Like old honey or dried sap. You're not sure when the chanting started again. It's lower now. Slower, like monks trying not to wake the dead, but you walk toward it anyway. The corridor bends into a narrow cloister, and ahead of you is a gate made of bone, not ivory, not stylized, actual yellowed, knuckled human bone, lashed together with wire and sinew, femurs for uprights, spines for crossbars, skulls stacked like gargoyles grinning in silence. The gate is open. You step through, and you are instantly inside the quiet chapel, also known in one surviving German manuscript as the Vocis Chasmatis, the voice hollow. Here, the church didn't experiment on the body, it experimented on the soul. Rows of wooden pews stretch out before you, worn down by knees and elbows and whispered apologies. But at the centre of the altar is something you've never seen before, a cage, and inside it, a chair, made entirely of mirrors. 1,000 tiny panels, each bent inward, like the person seated within would be reflected 100 ways but never seen whole. This, you realize, was the seat of silence, designed to trap sin. The theory: if someone sat inside and spoke their transgressions aloud, each confession would be caught in the angled glass, reflected, muted, bound, so it couldn't get out again. You approach the cage. Scratched into the mirrors are faint words, a phrase that repeats, "It stayed with me." You're not sure if that means the sin or the voice. This wasn't just confession, it was containment. The church, specifically a fringe Benedictine order active in the 1400s, believed certain thoughts, when spoken, took on form. They called it oral transubstantiation. In short, words became things. So they began testing, first with monks, then with criminals, then with children deemed too loud or too strange. You find a scroll nearby. The ink is faded, but the entries are dated. Case 4 confessed to envy. Mirrors hummed for 3 days. Case 7 spoke of lust. Glass cracked on the left thigh. Case 12 said nothing. Still heard weeping from the seat days later. The scroll is signed. Brother Matthias. You look up. A statue of Matthias looms over the cage, his mouth open in shock, as if forever reacting to the echoes trapped below. One a chilling aside. In 1432, a nun in Avignon was sealed inside a resonance cloister after claiming that her own thoughts were no longer her own. She scratched poems into her skin, believing they were leaking out. The church kept her in silence for 8 years. When the walls were reopened, the inside was lined with mirrored tiles, but none had been there when it was sealed. Back in the chapel, the cage creaks slightly. You take a step closer, and you realize there's someone still inside. Or was. What's left is not a body, it's a shape, cloth, hair, a ring, a skeletal hand clutching a rosary made of glass beads, each one fractured as though under pressure from sound. You kneel to read the final inscription at the base of the cage. The voice that stayed was not my own. Zoom out. This was not just religious control. This was acoustic theology, the belief that sound could carry sin, that guilt had frequency, that evil vibrated. So they built chambers to trap it. One Benedictine cell in Austria had walls layered with sheep gut to absorb the syllables of the damned. Another cloister installed pipes into the ceiling to redirect screams into the earth. A few monks believed that the devil couldn't possess what couldn't echo. Want one more awful gem? In 1469, a cathedral in Italy reported a haunted hymn believed to drive singers mad. A young cantor named Elio survived 5 rehearsals by plugging his ears with wax. When he removed it during Mass, he fell to his knees and said only, "She was waiting." The hymn was burned. The echo allegedly wasn't. You glance at the cage again. The seat is now empty, but one mirror is still warm to the touch. And when you pull your hand back, your palm carries a small message, fogged in condensation that fades before you can read it. As you exit the chapel, the chanting stops. Not fades, stops. And for the first time in hours, or maybe days, you realize you can hear your own breath again. You wish you couldn't. The silence following the voice hollow is somehow louder than any scream you've heard tonight. Your ears ring, phantom-like, as if they're still adjusting to the sudden absence of ancient whispers. You pass back into darkness. The faint sound of your own steps returning like heartbeat you weren't sure was still yours. And then you hear it. Not chanting, not moaning, laughter, not joyous, not warm. This laughter is ragged, intermittent, like a child trying to mimic joy without knowing the punchline. You turn the corner, the room is circular, candlelit, and most unexpectedly painted. Every inch of wall is covered in murals. Cartoonish, almost joyful depictions of angels, demons, kings, doctors, and clowns. One of them stares directly at you. Its paint is peeling at the eye. Welcome to the Chamber of the Laughing Cure, a grotesque experiment in forced optimism. In the early 1500s, when melancholy was seen as both a spiritual and physical illness, sometimes even contagious, certain monasteries and physicians devised humoral rebalancing chambers designed to shock sadness out of the soul. This particular method was based on a theory proposed by a pseudo-doctor named Father Girolamo del Sorriso, a disgraced friar who claimed that laughter expelled dark bile from the body. His cure locked patients in a chamber and surround them with constant, unrelenting mirth, no matter the cost. You walk deeper into the room. It's too warm here, overheated, almost sticky, like the breath of an audience held for too long. Puppets dangle from the ceiling on strings, painted faces, fixed grins. One sways slightly, no breeze. You step over a padded stool. A torn jester hat lies on the floor. On the far wall, a stage, tiny, curtained, absurdly detailed. Below it, a plaque. Let not a single tear fall here, lest the devil drink it. You kneel to peer inside. The stage is set for a marionette show. The puppets are grotesque caricatures, nuns with goat legs, a bishop with a chicken's head, a butcher holding a mirror instead of a cleaver. They're frozen mid-performance. One is missing its head. Behind the stage lies a wooden box inside dozens of scripts, handwritten. You pull one out. The Trial of Melancholy Act Wilm, the scene of the doctor. Why so glum, the patient? The worms sing in my eyes, the doctor. Then we shall drown them in giggles. You close the script. You find another Zmolla stained, annotated by hand. Subject 12 refused to laugh. Applied tickle bag. No response. Reapplied with mirth mask. Result cracked lips. Full smile. Subject now smiles at walls. Declared successful. The tickle bag, by the way, was not a metaphor. It was a real device: goat hair, feathers, metal brushes, bound together and strapped to the body's most sensitive parts, applied manually. For hours. For health. And the mirth mask, a leather strap system designed to force a person's mouth into a grin. Think of it as orthodontics by way of psychosis. This wasn't comedy. It was exorcism through joy. Zoom out. Europe in the late Middle Ages was terrified of sorrow not because it was painful, but because it was seen as a gateway to demonic possession. Sadness was weakness, and weakness opened doors, so they tried to laugh the darkness away, or beat it into a smile. One document from a Florentine convent describes a girl who refused to smile for 7 days after being told to joyfully greet God. On the 8th day, they removed her from prayer and placed her in a room of comedic saturation. Inside were paintings of animals in human clothing, monks making fart jokes, and a nun who dressed as a donkey and brayed during meals. The girl reportedly died smiling, but she died. On a ridiculous aside, in 1527, an Italian physician proposed that tickling the inner ear with swan feathers would release endorphins. His assistant got stuck. The assistant later reported hearing giggling from inside his own skull for 3 days. He became a playwright. You move past the stage and discover a trapdoor. You hesitate, but you open it. Beneath a padded pit, straps on the walls, feathers, bells. A sign burned into the floor reads, "Here joy is born from silence," and beneath it, the outline of a body, not in blood, in chalk. Someone once refused to laugh. They buried that failure here. Back in the room, you see something else, something newly added, a mirror. But unlike the others you've seen, this one is warped not from time, but design. Your reflection is stretched into a smile, even if your real mouth remains still. As you watch yourself grin, the laughter starts again, softer this time, but closer. It isn't coming from the room. It's coming from inside the mirror. You back away, zoom out again. The laughing chambers were never just about healing. They were control disguised as care. If you smiled, you were saved. If you didn't, you were sick. And if you resisted too long, you weren't just ill, you were damned. Want one more historical fragment in Bavaria? A nobleman named Otto Krieg refused to grieve after his wife's death. Monks forced him into a festival cell where he was surrounded by music, jesters, and erotic poetry. On day 5, he stabbed a puppet in the heart and said, "She's in the strings." The puppet was burned. Otto was never seen again. Back in the chamber, the candlelight shifts. One puppet on the ceiling drops a few inches. You don't stay to see if the others follow. The laughter fades behind you like the tail end of a fever dream, leaving only the sound of your own breath, slow and cautious, as you step into a corridor that feels sterile, too clean, too new. The stone is smooth, here almost polished. The flickering torchlight reflects faintly off the walls, casting double shadows that make it seem like you're not walking alone. You notice something else. 2 vents carved into the stone, narrow slits no wider than a finger, from which warm air pulses like the rhythmic exhale of a beast too large to see. You've arrived in the vital room, a term found only in a single 14th century manuscript smuggled from an abbey near Avila, Spain. The manuscript has no author, only a stamped symbol, a heart held between 2 sets of tongs. Welcome to the Mechanical Soul Project. This is where monks, tinkerers, and surgeons tried to replicate life not through potions or prayers, but through physical reconstruction, artificial organs, pumping devices, clockwork lungs. It was, depending on who you ask, the first attempt at a human machine, and you're standing in the relic of it. The room is circular and filled with objects that defy easy description. On one table lies a long brass tube fitted with valves and leather bellows, like a church organ trying to pretend it's a lung. Beside it, a copper bowl filled with thin tubes of glass, coiled like intestines. At the centre of the room stands a man-sized contraption shaped like a ribcage, metal bars bent and soldered into form. Inside it, nestled where a heart would be, ticks a small mechanism, slowly, steadily. Tick, tick, tick. You don't think it's just a clock. You find a ledger resting nearby on a lectern. The first few pages are smudged with soot, but one entry remains: Test Subject 2 Male, fitted with brass lungs and spring-loaded diaphragm, expired on breath 3, reclassified as non-viable chassis. Test Subject 3 Female, blood replaced with mercury, body stiffened, eye movement persisted for 90 seconds post-mortem, considered partial animation. You flip ahead. Test Subject 7 Composite, human torso, goat heart, glass stomach, movement observed, sound produced tick grunt. Terminated after eye contact established. What were they trying to build? Not a man. Not exactly. They were trying to build obedience. If you could create a body that never tired, never rebelled, never died. What king wouldn't want an army of those, one that breathes steam, that bleeds oil, that forgets nothing? You find a diagram of the ideal design. It's drawn with eerie precision, a skeletal structure made of iron, veins made of twine soaked in whale oil, lungs of pig skin stretched over bellows. It even includes a failsafe, a wax tablet behind the eyes that melts when the soul overheats. You move toward a figure draped in cloth, half hidden in shadow. You pull the fabric back and find a torso, human, at least, partially. The skin is grey, not decayed, but preserved in something slick and resinous. Tubes emerge from the sides. One runs into the chest cavity, another up toward the jaw, and so the blade rusts, the footsteps fade, and history forgets, but you remember just enough to wonder if it was ever real. Here at Boring Before Sleep, we don't give you heroes, we give you haunted corridors, forgotten names, and the soft weight of silence pressing against your dreams. You came here for sleep. But Boring Before Sleep was never really about comfort. It was about walking through dust-covered archives and realizing that fear is quieter than anyone admits, that the scariest moments in history don't scream, they whisper. Maybe tonight, you'll dream of another time, another face, another mask, and when you wake, you won't remember every detail, but the feeling will stay. A shadow in the hallway, a door left ajar, a name you almost said out loud. This is what we do. This is Boring Before Sleep. So if you made it this far, thank you. Let your breath slow. Let your mind float. And whenever you need to disappear into something darker, quieter, and strangely beautiful, you know where to find us. Right here at Boring Before Sleep,